Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for that warm welcome. That was terrific, and we certainly don't deserve any of that. Oh, gosh, I was just thinking, he's a small guy, isn't he? Is he on later? Oh, he's got my name on it. Right. Well, thank you for that warm welcome. We don't really deserve any of that, and we're up here because of a terrific system. We're just an ordinary couple who got into an extraordinary business, and we're very fortunate to have a couple who took an interest in what we were doing in the business and put their hand out to help us. That was Pat and Greta Gregory. So all of that applause really isn't for us. That's for all the things that they've done and the system they've put in place together with Jerry and Mandy Scriven. I mean, without those two couples, none of us would be here and none of this business would be moving on. It's always very exciting to be asked to speak. I mean, when you've spoken once, you think, gosh, that's me back. Oh, couldn't have been too bad. So we've been sent here today really to slow you down a little. You're moving on in this part of the country, so they asked us to come down and just slow you up a little bit. So that's what we're going to set a goal to do today. And we're up here really as a couple because we just decided to become a team Mike and Di. And the example we were set by Pat and Greta Gregory was what gave us the reason to want to be a team. They were always so together as a couple. And we can see the evidence of that now in the exciting lifestyle they've built together and the quality of life they've created. But not just for them, but for us and many other people, yourselves also, when you're ready to move it, that is, in this business. And I think that it's important you know that I'm up here today because of this lady here, my wife. She nagged me when I needed nagging. She kicked me when I needed kicking. She stopped the sex life when that was necessary to keep my focus. But I assured her I had got to focus. So we're here today really because of my partner, my winner, and I'm going to leave you in her hands. I'll see you later. Thank you.
I have this problem wherever I go. It's too high. Right. Hello, Kidderminster. Well, it's great to see everybody so excited. Some people here believe that this business works. Some people are still wondering what on earth they've come to. This sure is a funny business. Did you enjoy listening to Trevor and Jill? Yeah, they did a brilliant job, didn't they? Like us, though, they are products of this fantastic system. And you know, we're all here today because of Pat and Greta, Jerry and Mandy. Well, here you are listening to a very short couple from the Midlands. But we've been in this business right from almost the very beginning, when there was just a handful of people in classrooms. Now there are 24 of these venues across the UK and now the continent. And we do owe it all to Pat and Greta, Jerry and Mandy, because they definitely paid the price in the early days. And we shall be ever thankful. We remember when Bill O'Brien said to us, he says, Mike and Di, this was when we were about 15%, you've got to realise that you've got to look and say, we're going to have a venue like this, all of our very own. And it's not that far down the road. We didn't believe it at the time when we'd got just a few rows of people, but in a very few short years you can have venues like this and much bigger. And this is small thinking compared to what it can be. It could be your group, so set a goal to make it so. Put the action in to help others. So we have to change our thinking. There's two ways to build this business. One is, how many people can we get in our group? But the second way of thinking is, how many people can we help to get their own group? And that's the way to build this business. If you concentrate your thoughts on how you're going to help other people succeed, that becomes a priority in your mind. And your attention is focused on them. And you forget any hang-ups you've got because you're so busy helping others. So get excited. Say to yourself, what changes can we make now? What book can I read now? What tape is the next one for me? Who can I speak to? Who can help me? When's the next function? Let me get my ticket. And I know a lot of you have bought your tickets today. But the changes that take place in your life are not made progressively over long periods of time. Changes are the result of a conscious decision that you made at a specific moment in your life. It's the moment you decide to change. Some people in this room even want to succeed, and they've tried to change a little bit, but they haven't made the proper decision, not made the real decision to change completely. And nothing happens without a decision. Change can only happen to you if your decision is that you are willing to change. If you bought a ticket to be here today, make it your goal that when you go from here today, this is the message for you. I'm going to build this business, whatever it takes. Now, who can we help along the way? Nothing in life is permanent. I read in a book called The 24-Hour Turnaround. When you think about it, every second new water runs down a river. So the river is constantly changing. It's never the same water. And the cells in our body are constantly changing too. They're continually replacing themselves. Otherwise we would die. And our personality and our emotions are changing all the time. What is frightening is that change happens to most people in life without them realising it. And they haven't planned it. And they haven't controlled the situation to make the change. The change has happened around them. If you think about this business compared to the modern business world, the majority of it is now computerised. Most of us have had to adapt in some way or other to the computerisation. How do we feel about businesses that still add up on bits of paper? The people who refuse to change and accept computers have probably ended up in dead-end jobs or in businesses that are stagnant. And we have to be prepared to change along the way. 2 or 3 weeks ago, Mike had an operation, and he had this up-to-date keyhole surgery. He was given a choice. But how much more confident did we feel with the specialist who gave him the choice? A man in his 50s who was still learning his trade, still studying, still finding new ways to do things, flexible enough to throw away the scalpel and perform an operation through fibre optic tubes whilst looking at a computer screen. It's amazing, really. But sometimes a man in his 50s can be just waiting for the last 10 to 15 years of his working life and just letting things drift by. We have to ask ourselves, how flexible are we? Are we willing to change? In our jobs, we probably are. The answer probably is yes, because we make a decision to overcome any fear or challenge because we're frightened of losing the income. Of course, there are those who duck out, don't accept the challenge, give up, find a job where they don't need to stretch themselves. They don't have to change. But what satisfaction have they got in life? We remember when we first got in this business, and we know most of you feel similar. You have all sorts of different emotions. Horror, fear. We're frustrated, we're happy one minute, hopeful. We're sad, we're terrified. You go through all these weird emotions. But many of you are very excited when you see the plan, but unsure of what you're doing. You see the circles on the board and the build-up of the income. When the plan says, this is you, who do you see in the circle? I was so excited personally, I didn't even analyse what we've got to do. If we've got to sell bags of sand or horse manure, I was prepared to do it. And there's no time to wait and analyse. You could be halfway to freedom by now, while you're checking every little detail. Maybe you were completely and utterly negative when you saw the plan, and not able to make your mind up at all. It doesn't matter what your attitude was like. It's what it's going to be from now on, and are you willing to change? Are you willing to make a decision to put in the action that's going to change your lifestyle? Perhaps you're like me. I loved the business and the concept of it, but I felt rather uncomfortable with some of the things we were going to have to do. and we were a bit afraid. But fear is nothing new. In the Bible, the word fear appears 365 times. The words fear not, one for each day of the year. So people have felt fear for a long time. And we were asked, when we first started the business, to make a list, like everybody else. Some names went straight on the list, other names we didn't want to put on at all. Why? Because we were afraid. What of? And perhaps you feel the same. We were afraid of what people might think of us. We were afraid that they might reject us and say no. We were afraid that they might laugh at us. We were afraid it might affect our job. And we could also have been afraid of success. Could we handle it? We'd never ever been successful. And this is why making a decision is important. This is where you set yourself a goal to do the business and overcome any fears you have. You have to say, I don't care what it takes. I don't care what they think of us. I know what we're doing is honest and ethical. We're helping others to achieve their goals and dreams. We're going to invite that couple to see the business because we know we can help them. And if they say no, so what? Perhaps they have no ambitions. Perhaps they're talkers and not doers. Perhaps they don't enjoy helping other people. Perhaps they're only interested in themselves and their own family. Perhaps they're lazy. Perhaps they can't switch the television off. Perhaps they're afraid of change. Perhaps they have very little confidence. Perhaps they have the same fears as you. And all of these reasons are absolutely nothing to do with you. You've offered them an opportunity. They are, in fact, rejecting themselves in some way. And if they laugh at you, use it as a big motivation, the reason to build it. We're being called Soapy, Mr. and Mrs. Amway, Sudsy, and all sorts of things. Going to recruit some more Wallies. We had a neighbour laugh at us so much that we made it a goal. We made it a goal to win. And while he was out at the front, laughing at us as we put the board in the car, I was nipping round the back selling her products. We used to think people talked about us behind the curtains, but why should they? They're probably too busy thinking about themselves to think about you. They probably thought about you for 2 seconds and that was it. And this type of attitude comes from people who don't understand our business, who haven't seen it even, some of them. So is that how you think? The trouble is, if you do, you can create a mental monster about it. We used to run out of the house in the dark, put the board and diesel and the information packs in, and ad packs hoping that nobody would see us. Then we realised one day that if we became proud of this thing, nobody could affect us. And I suggest you listen to a tape, if you like that, called Oh Harry. If you're letting somebody else affect your attitude, make a decision to overcome it. In 4 years' time, you'll probably have moved away from them and they won't be able to affect you anymore at all. You may be concerned about your job. I was a teacher, a professional. What would they think of me? Would it affect my job? We set a goal to invite some of the teachers that I worked with. One couple got excited on the night. Oh yes, we're going to do it, we're going to build it. They had one plan. 1 or 2 of their friends laughed at them and they quit. Since I left school, this particular teacher, she had a nervous breakdown, had to give up work, and I'd have loved to have been able to help them. But you can't help quitters. The other man I invited from school wasn't too keen on work anyway. In fact, he did less and less each week and wasn't even there sometimes. And he managed eventually to get an early reduced pension. And he's quite happy now bumming around. Would an attitude like that be any good in this free enterprise business, where you have to do a bit extra in life to help others? I went to school thinking that Mike and I would be a topic of conversation and that they'd laugh at me, but I wasted my breath. They may have mentioned me for 2 minutes while I wasn't there, and then it was forgotten. And I set a goal to make them customers, and one of them I did. You change what you think is a losing situation to a winning situation. And the question is, did this business ever affect my profession? Yes, it did. It made me more positive, it made me more patient, it made me more aware of others, it made me respect other people's feelings, it made me more confident, it made me a better teacher, more efficient, more time effective. Did it ever threaten my job? On the contrary, I was put forward for promotion. The only trouble was Mr. Gregory and Mr. O'Brien had decided that I didn't need it anymore. I was earning more in the short time we'd been building this business than I'd earned in 20 years of teaching. And wouldn't this be great to happen to you? So, you've made a list. Is everyone you know on it? Have you put the people who are already succeeding the 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 pound bracket? It was a stupid move by us not to do it because, if you think about it, these people who are on these high incomes are already wanting the very good things out of life.